Bonjour et bienvenue sur ma chaîne Darlene Don Ledodonia. I wanted to spend some time talking about those most common questions we are asked about why it is that we chose to move here to France. Can you guess what the number one question is? Well, if you stick around, I promise you'll find out what it is and much more. Please, firstly, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel to continue to support what I do here. That would be amazing. The reason I thought to potentially have a vlog of Q&A is because at this time of year in the Southern Hemisphere, you're moving into summer, and perhaps some people are considering a little bit of a lifestyle change, sea change, a country change, a continent change. We thought we'd just provide a few answers and some of our own experience to help those that are looking to do something similar to what we did over 2.5 years ago now. So the number one question we get asked all the time is, why did we leave Australia? I've got my little cheat sheet here with a couple of points. So I think primarily the reason that we left Australia, and it certainly wasn't an easy decision. It's not a decision that you make lightly, but in hindsight, there are a number of things that helped in the decision-making process. So firstly, we were looking to retire young, and we really found that we couldn't afford to do that in Australia. We looked at downsizing, moving out of suburbia and heading west to buy land. Land is just so expensive now. We looked north of the Sunshine Coast in the hinterland, all through the hinterland down through Brisbane into the Gold Coast and even into New South Wales. Was only when we started looking at a cost comparison to moving to France did we think that we could actually get a lot more bang for our buck. The other reason we were looking to leave the north side of Brisbane was because we found ourselves landlocked. And essentially that meant that we were in a beautiful little suburb right on the coast. But in order for us to be able to get anywhere, we had a really big network of roads, motorways, deviations, highways, you name it, and they all intersected right around our suburb. So whenever we wanted to go anywhere, we were in gridlock. So it was becoming so congested. It was becoming more like time spent on roads rather than destinations. And so we started looking at other opportunities, like perhaps heading to Europe and living in some of those beautiful countries. And I mean, back then it was a pipe dream. I mean, I adore Italy and we love Spain. And we bought here in France. For many reasons, but France was affordable for us. You can look at my vlogs in season 1 to learn about the cost of living and property prices here. France is a beautiful country. We fell in love with the Dordogne. The river systems here, it's almost too beautiful to believe. It's also the land of 1,000 chateaux. There's always something to do on our days off or weekends where we can have a day visiting some of the most beautiful, breathtaking sites, and whether they be chateaux or grottos or gardens and stunning cities. We had to consider a number of things like, you know, the cost for health, systems, networks, Wi-Fi, clean water, electrical supply, and it's all available here in France. And we found that there were those similarities with Australia here that France has that we knew wouldn't be a problem. By moving to France, we also realised too that we were living in predominantly a central part of Europe that will allow us to do a lot of travelling to Spain or to Italy, Germany, Belgium, Denmark, the UK. It is almost like hopping across the state border in Australia. Everything is just so close. So that was another reason. We also wanted a different way of life. Shaun and I, for our whole lives, have worked professionally, and we've worked long days. We've been very dedicated, I guess, to what we've done in our chosen careers. And that meant a lot of the time that we were working more than we were living, as in doing what we wanted to do. And so moving here, we were able to not work, but that said, continue to work for ourselves. And there's something amazing about being able to choose your own routine. I can pursue those hobbies that I've always loved. And that Shaun also has been able to pursue his passions and has put his hand at woodworking and, well, renovating a house. Keeps him pretty busy.
You can get a long stay visa, which I think is the VLTS visa. To get that, you have to be able to show a few things. One, that you have somewhere to live, and that could be a home that you purchased or something you're renting. And you'd have to show the lease and everything associated with that. So there's a couple of options there around what you have to do to provide proof for somewhere to live. Second, you have to show means to be able to support yourself. That's somewhere, I think it's somewhere around about 20,000 euros for a single person and about 25,000 for a couple. You'd probably want to, I think realistically, have a little bit more than that. You'd probably want to show that you have at least 30,000 euros available for you to be able to support yourself here. You could show it in your Australian or foreign bank account, but I think it bodes better if you actually have it here in a French bank account. You have to show that you have medical insurance. There's a number of companies that can provide you with international medical insurance, Bupa and I could probably rattle off a few others, but there's a number of them out there that you can get an insurance policy that has to be paid in advance. Typically, it will cost you somewhere around about 3,000 euros for the year, and that's probably what you need to be able to apply for the visa. Different where and how you apply varies in different countries. In Australia, you go through a third party to process the application, and then they send that off to the consulate or the embassy, depending on where you are. And then if they accept your visa application, then you send your passports to the embassy or the consulate and you get your visa, and then you can arrive in France for a 12-month stay. From there, once you arrive, you've got 3 months to apply online and validate your visa. And once you've done that, you will then be contacted by the prefecture for the whatever region you live in, and you will then have to do a medical, which will involve a chest x-ray, and you have to go to, depending where you are, here in the Dordogne, you'll have to go to Bordeaux to do that. And then after that, they'll issue you with a titre de jour, which is a residency card, and you'll have to go to the prefecture to pick that up, make an appointment, pick that up, and then you're sort of here for 12 months. Then about 3 months out before your visa expires, you will get a notification from the government saying that you can reapply for your visa. So you have to start preparing all your documentation and get everything together. You have to show things like your copies of your passports, copies of your residency card, front and back, which I learnt last year, has to be the back as well. And then marriage certificates or anything like that that's applicable to things. And then you do all that online, send all that in, and then normally what'll happen is about 2 days before your visa expires, you'll get a thing online or an email saying that they've approved your visa, and here's a temporary piece of paper that you can print out. And about 3 months after that, you'll get notification that your new residency card is available to pick up at the prefecture, which then you make an appointment online. And then we can probably do another video around all of this, some of the real sort of admin stuff around that, probably worth another chat later. And then you go and pick up your new residency card at the prefecture, and then it's just rinse and repeat until about, I believe, about 5 years.
How have you found learning the language? Right. Well, I have a simple answer, and that is with difficulty. For Australians that have never learnt French at school, it's a language that is harder than you realise. Well, it's harder than I realised it would be. So for a lot of European countries, they actually learn French as a second language at school, and normally have 2 to 5 years worth of study at schools. So the basics of grammar, of the male and female nouns, the conjugations of the way that verbs change, the pronunciation of verbs change depending on the pronoun. I can give you some examples. Why don't I do that? It'll be much easier. I'll start with the part of the sentence structure called the article. The article is a word that modifies a noun. I mean, the grammar rules around this alone is mind-numbing, but all you need to know is that it's either the or an. For example, the car or a car. So in French you would say le or la and or une, depending if the thing you're talking about is feminine or masculine. A car in French is pronounced voiture, and because a car is a feminine word, the car is pronounced la voiture or une voiture. So next, if you want to say I am, you are, we are, or they are, etc. In French, it's pronounced je suis, tu es, elle est, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, elles ont. When I first started learning, I thought, rightio, I've got this. And then I realized there are thousands of verbs that I have to learn. And trust me, this is a very simple intro into learning the French language. But yeah, if someone had told me that the French use conjugations, I would have had a better idea what I was in for. But wow, it has not been easy. But I don't want to discourage anybody. I have learned it from scratch. I'm still learning it. And I really enjoy it. And every day, it's like osmosis. It slowly sinks in. how do the two countries differ? And what are some examples of those differences? Well, I mean, clearly Australia is very isolated. It's right down the bottom there, as we refer to, down under. So, it takes a long time to get there. And when you're there, well, it's wonderful. It's young, it's vibrant. Everything is a melting pot of people, culture, cuisine. Who wouldn't love the beautiful beaches, the rainforests and the outback of Australia? I certainly do. France is, again, quite different because it definitely has the 4 seasons here that I'm not familiar with, coming from Brisbane. So that's just stunning. The colours, the light, the way the light changes here is really something. The culture is incredibly different. The people are different. So I think a lot of people assume that the French are difficult or rude, but that's been the opposite of our experience here. They are more alike to Australians than I think Australians realise. They have a great sense of humour. They're just really honest, interesting, thoughtful, considerate people. How wonderful it is when you see a friend and they ask you, how are you? And it's not just a sort of a throwaway question. They really want to know how you are. And they want to know whether you're happy or whether you're sad or whether there's difficulties, because if they didn't want to know, they wouldn't ask. Recycling here is very important. Recycling is a way of life. The community bins, there are 3 of them, and you break down your recycling and you use those bins, and it's done. Fruit and vegetables here are a lot cheaper and a lot fresher. I guess that doesn't come as a surprise because clearly Australia is a massive country, and we're very reliant in Australia on infrastructure for the trains and the trucks and the ports and the transportation of food and products to vast areas of Australia. So I think it's fair to say that the produce in Europe is a lot fresher as a result. Traditions are very important here in France. I think they date back to the regions of France. So before France was a united country and they had all different regions of all different languages, which is literally only 100 years ago. So you had the Basque culture and way of life. You had the Occitan way of life, which is in this region was the Occitans. And then with those cultures, they have certain traditions, and I'll share a few of those with you. Something that I have been in trouble for is eating on the run. It's just something you do not do here. You do not eat and walk. You do not skip lunch. The highlight of most people's days are their meals or the repas. So your petit déjeuner, your breakfast, déjeuner, lunch, and then le dîner is dinner time. And it's about enjoying good food with good company, your family, and always enjoying a glass of wine. Not necessarily more than that, just a glass of wine.